Hello brothers and welcome to Sigma Old Man channel. Real power is when you don't need to say a word and everyone still feels it. That's not just a mood. It's the daily headache every alpha male gets when a Sigma walks into the room. You see, while the alpha is flexing his muscles, making loud entrances and collecting approval points like it's a video game, the Sigma male is in the corner, silent, unreadable, and somehow the center of gravity. Here's a wild fact. A psychological study on dominance showed that perceived status drops when someone tries too hard to prove it. Alphas often oversell their power, and Sigmas, they don't sell it at all. That's why the envy kicks in, because nothing drives a dominance-obsessed alpha crazier than a man who doesn't chase validation and still gets it. And let's be honest, watching an alpha male try to outshine a Sigma is like watching a lion do ballet while the wolf just chills in the shade and still gets more attention. This isn't just about ego. It's about the quiet threat of a man who can't be controlled, predicted, or influenced. And in the alpha's mind, that kind of man is dangerous, even if he's just sipping coffee and minding his business. So now the question is, why exactly does jealousy drive alphas mad around Sigmas? Let's unpack 12 brutally honest, wildly unique reasons that will make it all crystal clear and probably make a few alphas clench their jaw. Number 1. Sigmas don't play politics. They play reality. Sigma males don't do politics. Not in the office, not in friendships, not in social groups. And that right there is why alpha males feel so rattled around them. Alphas are experts in social games. They charm, persuade, intimidate, manipulate, whatever it takes to stay on top of the invisible ladder. Every smile is strategic. Every handshake, every compliment, every moment of silence. All part of a well-planned performance to secure control or approval. But then enters the Sigma male, and suddenly all those moves don't work. Because Sigmas aren't playing the same game. They see through it, they're unimpressed by it, and they don't participate in it. They operate on a different wavelength, one where authenticity beats performance and logic trumps popularity. This is what drives alpha males insane. They thrive in environments where politics and performance determine rank. But Sigmas don't climb ladders. They build a completely separate structure and walk away. The alpha could spend weeks trying to outmaneuver people in meetings, play the team leader role, or dominate discussions, and the Sigma will calmly submit a genius idea, zero drama, and suddenly win respect without lifting a social finger. That kind of raw, clean intelligence is a threat to an alpha's entire identity. It shows that influence doesn't have to come from power plays. It can come from quiet mastery. And here's the twist that burns. Sigmas aren't even trying to disrupt anything. They're just being themselves. No faking, no strategizing, no begging for alliances, just showing up, delivering value and going back to their quiet little world. That simplicity feels disrespectful to the alpha who's built his whole world on complexity. It's like a guy spending hours playing 4D chess only to get checkmated by someone who wasn't even sitting at the table. Even worse, the Sigma's detachment exposes how emotionally dependent alpha males are on recognition. They need applause, dominance, admiration. A Sigma doesn't. That emotional self-sufficiency quietly mocks the alpha's need to constantly prove himself. It shows the cracks in the crown because true strength doesn't scream. It doesn't campaign. It just moves through life unaffected. And no matter how much power the alpha thinks he has, it's the man who's immune to politics who holds the real control. That's the kind of presence that can unravel an entire performance-based kingdom with just one quiet nod. Number 2, Sigmas aren't hungry, they're satisfied. Alpha males move like they've got something to prove because they do. Their entire identity is wrapped around chasing, status, success, admiration, dominance. They're always hungry, always reaching, always calculating their next move to get higher on the ladder. Even their confidence is fueled by what they gain, titles, respect, applause. Without those, they start to unravel. That's where the Sigma male flips the entire script. He's not climbing, he's not chasing, he's not even looking, because internally he's already full. Sigmas walk through life with a sense of quiet satisfaction that alpha males just can't decode. They're not fueled by competition or applause. They don't need to be seen to feel valuable. Their confidence doesn't come from what they have. It comes from who they are when everything else is stripped away. That kind of self-sufficiency is unnerving to someone who's addicted to external validation. And it's not that Sigmas are lazy or indifferent to achievement. They just don't need achievement to feel whole. They work because they enjoy mastery. They win because they're aligned with themselves, not because they need to beat someone. What drives alpha males crazy is that sigmas can have less, show less, say less, and still radiate more power. That's not supposed to happen in the alpha playbook. To them, satisfaction without dominance is either fake or threatening. It messes with the belief that fulfillment only comes after the grind, the flex, the recognition. So when a sigma doesn't care to compete but still gets respected, that burns. It exposes the emotional bankruptcy of the endless hunger for more. The truth is, hunger makes people predictable. You know what they want, and you can use that to manipulate them. But someone who's not hungry, who's not craving attention, validation, or praise, you can't control that person. You can't intimidate or seduce them. That terrifies alphas because they don't know how to win against someone who's already won internally. So yes, alphas chase, sigmas chill. And in that stillness, in that calm refusal to need anything from anyone, is a kind of dominance that doesn't need a stage or a spotlight. It's quiet, it's complete, and it drives the hungry ones insane. Number 3, alphas need control. Sigmas can't be controlled. Alpha males are addicted to control. It's their comfort zone, their identity, their weapon. They feel powerful when they're steering the ship, pulling the strings, setting the tone. Whether it's in the workplace, relationships, or social circles, they need to feel like they're the dominant force in the room. It's not just about power, it's about predictability. If they can control you, they can predict you. And if they can predict you, they feel safe. Enter the sigma male, a man who refuses to be controlled, decoded, or boxed in, and suddenly the alpha starts twitching. Sigmas don't respond to traditional dominance tactics. You can't impress them into submission. You can't guilt trip them. You can't use hierarchy, charm, intimidation, or status to bend them. They don't play the emotional chess game. When someone tries to push, they don't push back. They just disengage completely. That's what makes them untouchable. You can't manipulate someone who's not emotionally reactive. You can't dominate someone who doesn't need your approval. And you sure as hell can't lead someone who doesn't care about your title. This lack of control drives alpha males into a quiet kind of madness. It's not always loud, it's a slow-burning paranoia. Because the sigma male might be in the same room, the same company, the same social setting, but he's not under the alpha's influence. He's moving by his own internal compass. He's immune to ego traps. And that independence, that's terrifying to a control-based alpha because it reminds him that all the dominance he's built can be completely ignored, and nothing bad happens. Worse, sigmas don't challenge control. They ignore it. And ignoring an alpha is more threatening than confronting him. At least confrontation gives him something to fight, but indifference, that's psychological warfare. It makes the alpha question his own relevance. He starts to spiral. Why isn't this guy responding? Why doesn't he follow the chain of command? Why does he always do things his way? That internal unrest turns into a quiet obsession. The truth is, alphas can dominate almost anyone except a sigma. Because the moment a man doesn't need to be led, praised, or controlled, he becomes dangerous in a way no alpha playbook can handle. Number 4, sigmas are observers. They see through alpha acts instantly. Alpha males thrive on performance. They walk into a room with their chest out, voice loud, and stories polished to perfection. To most people, it looks like raw confidence, but to a sigma male, it's just noise, and he sees right through it. While others get caught up in the charisma and dominance, the sigma sits back quietly, watching, decoding, dissecting every move. He's not impressed by loud energy or public victories. He's watching the micro-behaviors, the hesitation in the eyes, the overcompensating laugh, the forced dominance. And what he sees, a man trying too hard to prove something he's not fully convinced of. Sigmas are silent detectors of insecurity. They don't need you to confess it. They feel it. They catch the gap between who someone is and who they pretend to be. So when an alpha puts on a show, the sigma doesn't clap. He doesn't challenge it either. He just gives that calm, unreadable look that says, I see you, all of you. And that quiet awareness is deadly, because nothing unnerves a performer more than someone who's not reacting, especially when that person clearly understands the act. This is what rattles alpha males. They're used to winning people over with presence and dominance, but when a sigma doesn't respond the way everyone else does, no admiration, no fear, no fake smiles, the alpha starts to sweat internally. He knows something's off. He knows he's being seen in a way he can't control. And since sigmas don't gossip or seek validation, they don't even need to expose him. They just let the truth sit there, unspoken but loud. There's nothing more unsettling than being deeply understood by someone who says nothing, because that silence feels heavier than words. It's not judgment, it's not hate. It's just clarity. And alphas, who often build their image on perception, can't stand being seen without the filter. Not when it's by someone who isn't seeking to compete or belittle, but simply sees reality for what it is. To a sigma, the alpha's performance is a predictable pattern. To the alpha, the sigma's quiet insight is a threat he can't name, fix, or defeat. And that quiet understanding, it's more powerful than any argument or display of dominance ever could be. Number 5, alphas crave brotherhood, sigmas are dangerous alone. Alpha males operate in packs. They need a crew, a support system, a loyal circle that echoes their ideas and fuels their status. Brotherhood is part of their strength and their safety net. It reinforces their identity, gives them influence, and keeps their ego fed. Being surrounded by others who look up to them or move in sync with their energy makes the alpha feel powerful, validated, and in control. But the moment a sigma male walks in, completely alone, zero entourage, zero need for backup, the alpha feels it. Not just sees it, feels it, and it hits like a quiet threat. Because sigmas don't need numbers. They don't need followers to move confidently. They don't outsource their strength to a group. Their power comes from within, self-reliance, clarity, and a level of peace that doesn't require external reinforcement. That kind of independence is deeply unsettling to the alpha who's built his dominance on collective energy. When someone can walk into any room, stand alone, speak when necessary, and still command respect without needing anyone in their corner, it makes the alpha question how real his power actually is. To an alpha, a man who doesn't need approval looks arrogant. A man who doesn't bond for status looks cold. But what it really is freedom. And that freedom is intimidating, because it reveals the alpha's secret fear that without his tribe, without the noise, without the attention, he's not as powerful as he thought. Sigmas are dangerous alone because they thrive alone. They think better, move smarter, grow faster. They're not dependent on groupthink or social games. They trust their own judgment and don't need validation to execute. That kind of man doesn't flinch under pressure. He disappears into his own process and comes back 10 times sharper. Alphas can't handle that kind of threat because it's not loud, not aggressive. It's quiet and internal. And there's no defense for someone who needs nothing from you. So when an alpha sees a sigma walking alone, unfazed, unchained, and still respected, he doesn't just feel jealousy. He feels exposed. Because deep down, he knows being followed isn't the same as being powerful. And needing no one? That's the kind of power you can't fake. Number 6, sigmas don't compete and still win. Alpha males are wired to compete. They need a goal, a rival, a trophy, something that proves they're on top. Every room they walk into is silently ranked in their head. Who's the biggest? Who's the loudest? Who's the most successful? They train like warriors for battles most people don't even know are happening. And that's how they validate themselves, by winning. But the moment a sigma male enters the picture, everything gets flipped upside down. Because sigmas don't join the race, they don't chase prizes, they don't even acknowledge the scoreboard, and somehow they still win. That's what breaks the alpha's brain. He's sweating, strategizing, showing up, playing to win, and the guy who didn't even care to compete gets all the attention, respect, and influence without trying. That's not just irritating, it's humiliating, because it makes the alpha question everything he's been working for. If someone can rise without chasing, then what does that say about the value of the chase itself? What the alpha doesn't understand is that the sigma isn't trying to beat anyone. He's trying to master himself. He's not focused on being better than the next guy. He's focused on being better than his last self, and that internal focus is so rare, so raw, that it naturally sets him apart. He wins by not needing to win. He gains influence by not needing attention. And that paradox drives alphas mad, because it exposes the performative nature of their hustle. Even worse, the sigma's lack of interest in competition makes him unpredictable. You can't outplay someone who's not even on your board. You can't psych out someone who doesn't care about your game. So while the alpha is chasing admiration, rankings, and applause, The sigma is quietly building something deeper: character, insight, and impact. And the world it notices. There's nothing more enraging to a competition-driven alpha than losing to someone who didn't show up to fight, and yet that's what sigmas do all the time. They walk their path unaffected by the noise and still end up ahead, because while the alpha plays to win others, the sigma lives to master himself. And in the end, that's the only win that really matters. Number 7, sigmas. Expose the alpha's hidden insecurities. Alpha males are used to being the loudest voice in the room, the one everyone looks to, the one who seems untouchable. But most of that dominance is a well-practiced act, a controlled image designed to hide the parts of themselves they don't want anyone to see. Deep down, many alphas are insecure. They cover it with achievements, status, charm, and power plays. And it usually works until a sigma walks in. Because a sigma's calm, detached presence doesn't just ignore the act, it reveals it. See, sigmas aren't fooled by surface-level confidence. They don't get blinded by loudness or charisma. They observe in silence and pick up on the gaps between what someone says they are and what they actually feel. And when an alpha starts performing, the sigma doesn't challenge it with words. He challenges it by simply being himself. Quiet, whole, unbothered. That effortless composure shines a light on the alpha's overcompensation like a spotlight on a crack in a wall. The alpha may not admit it, but he feels it. The way the sigma doesn't flinch, doesn't need validation, doesn't react, it creates a contrast so sharp it cuts right into the alpha's ego. Suddenly all the posturing, the dominance, the charm, it starts to feel hollow. Not because anyone said it was fake, but because the sigma's authenticity exposes the difference. The alpha begins to sense that his power is tied to how others see him, while the sigma's power is anchored in how he sees himself. That realization hits hard. And here's the brutal part. The sigma doesn't even try to expose anything. He just stands there, grounded, detached, self-assured, and that quiet energy silently pulls off the alpha's mask. He starts questioning if people actually respect him or just play along, if he's admired or just loud, if his confidence is real or just a reaction to deep-rooted fear. The sigma doesn't say a word, but his presence speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. The truth is, most people give alphas what they want: admiration, agreement, attention. But sigmas give them nothing, not out of disrespect, but because they don't need to. And that nothing? That's what brings the alpha face to face with everything he's been avoiding. Number 8, sigmas aren't threatened by other men, which infuriates alphas. Alpha males are constantly scanning the room. Who's stronger, who's richer, who's getting more attention? It's not always obvious, but it's there. A subtle game of measuring and adjusting. If another man enters the space, the alpha instinctively checks where he stands in comparison. Is he more dominant? Does he command more presence? Can he be outshined, or does he need to reassert his place? It's a constant background process, fueled by the fear of being outclassed. Now enter the sigma male, calm, unbothered, and completely uninterested in that silent measuring game, and the alpha short circuits. Because sigmas don't posture, they don't adjust, and they definitely don't feel threatened. They're not comparing muscles, status, or charm levels. They're just present, neutral, detached. That complete lack of competitiveness feels unnatural to the alpha, almost like a glitch in the matrix. And it's not because the sigma thinks he's better, it's because he doesn't care if he is or not. His self-worth isn't built on outranking other men. It's rooted in self-respect, clarity, and a complete lack of emotional dependence on external validation. This kind of internal peace infuriates the alpha because it highlights a truth he doesn't want to face, that no amount of success or dominance can substitute for genuine inner stillness. The alpha might wear confidence like armor, but the sigma doesn't even need armor. He's already untouchable. Not because he's invincible, but because he's not playing a game that requires defense. That quiet confidence makes the alpha's brand of confidence look performative, shaky, and reactive. The worst part? Sigmas don't even acknowledge the alpha's presence in a competitive way. They'll respect him, sure, but they won't defer. They won't try to match him. They just move through the same space as if they have nothing to prove. And to a man who lives to prove himself, that kind of energy is maddening. It's not resistance, it's indifference. And there's nothing more threatening to an ego-driven alpha than a man who simply refuses to be moved. So while alphas play a lifelong game of who's top dog, the sigma walks by the kennel completely unfazed, and that refusal to engage isn't weakness, it's mastery. It's what the alpha secretly envies and deep down knows he'll never be able to fake. Number 9. Sigmas don't need to prove masculinity, they just are. Alpha males are often stuck in a loop of proving they're masculine. Loud voices, dominant stances, aggressive handshakes, constant flexing of power or toughness. Whether it's through showing off wealth, conquering women, or puffing up their ego in every room they walk into, it's all part of the same show. Look at me, I'm a real man. But for Sigma males, that whole performance is irrelevant. They don't need to perform masculinity. They are it, quietly, naturally, without seeking applause for it. And that authenticity doesn't just stand out, it stings. Because when a Sigma male shows up with grounded energy, emotional control, strong values, and a calm intensity, it exposes how performative alpha masculinity really is. The Sigma isn't trying to impress anyone. He's just operating from a place of clarity and self-assurance. He doesn't need to prove strength because he knows how to control it. He doesn't need to brag about women because he values quality over quantity. He doesn't talk over people to assert dominance. He lets silence do the heavy lifting, and that kind of presence speaks louder than any alpha monologue. What makes it worse for the alpha is that others notice it. Women are drawn to it. Men respect it. Not because it's flashy, but because it's real. It's masculinity without the mask, without the show, without the insecure overcompensation. That's a quiet kind of power that the alpha can't match, no matter how loud he gets or how many manly boxes he checks. It's like the difference between a lion in the wild and one in a cage trying to roar louder. One is free and unbothered, the other is performing for survival. To a Sigma, masculinity isn't about dominance, it's about sovereignty. He doesn't posture because his identity isn't fragile. He doesn't prove his worth through conquest, aggression, or status. He just lives it. And that effortless embodiment makes the alpha's entire performance look like a desperate TikTok challenge. Masculinity, when it's real, doesn't need to be marketed. And the Sigma is proof of that, which is exactly why alphas, deep down, feel exposed in his presence. Because while they're busy acting the part, the Sigma simply is. Number 10. Sigma males. Make power look effortless, while alphas bleed for it. Alpha males are constantly in motion. They grind for status, fight for recognition, and spend endless energy trying to look powerful. From their voice tone to their body language to the way they dress or talk. Everything is curated to signal dominance. It's loud, it's obvious, and it's exhausting. To them, power is something you earn through force, visibility, and control. But when a Sigma male enters the scene, he doesn't do any of that. He's not loud, he's not posturing, and he doesn't care about optics. Yet somehow all eyes shift in his direction, and the alpha feels it in his chest. That effortless energy the Sigma carries, it hits harder than any power move the alpha can plan, because it's not rehearsed, not strategic, it's natural. The Sigma doesn't chase influence, it follows him. He doesn't need to dominate a room because the room instinctively adjusts to his presence. That subtle command, that quiet authority slices through all the noise, and to the alpha, who's bleeding daily for the same level of control, it's pure ego torture. What makes it worse is that the Sigma doesn't even want to dominate. He's not trying to lead or impress, he's just existing in his own lane, fully centered. And that calm inner control radiates as real power. That's the kind of presence you can't fake. You either have it, or you don't. And alpha males who have spent years crafting their persona through sweat and strategy suddenly look like they're trying too hard next to a Sigma who's just being. The truth is, power that has to be announced isn't real power, it's performance. And deep down, the alpha knows that. That's why the Sigma's effortless dominance feels like a gut punch. It reminds the alpha that all his effort might be doing less than he thinks. Because when you see someone walk in quietly and still shift the entire dynamic without a word, you start to question how much of your power is actually yours, and how much of it is just noise people have learned to tolerate. And that's the painful truth. While alphas fight for control, Sigmas attract it, not by force, not by design, just by being exactly who they are. And nothing bruises an alpha's ego more than watching someone effortlessly embody what they've been bleeding to become. Number 11, Sigmas don't want the spotlight, which makes them irresistibly magnetic. Alpha males chase the spotlight like it's oxygen. They need to be seen, heard, recognized, constantly, whether it's through telling loud stories, commanding conversations, or strategically inserting themselves into every social moment. The alpha thrives on attention. It's how they validate their power. But here's the twist. The Sigma male doesn't want any of it. He's not trying to be noticed, he's not performing, and he's definitely not chasing approval. And that exact disinterest in the spotlight, that's what makes people turn their heads and wonder, who is that guy? There's something magnetic about someone who isn't begging to be seen. While alphas are busy curating their image, the Sigma is just existing, detached, quiet, focused on his own world. He doesn't dress to impress, he dresses for comfort. He doesn't speak to dominate, he speaks when there's something worth saying. He doesn't chase attention because he has nothing to prove. And somehow, that raw authenticity becomes the exact thing everyone notices, especially when the room is saturated with performative energy. Alphas hate this. They've trained themselves to believe that visibility equals power, that dominance must be loud. But when the Sigma walks in and accidentally becomes the most intriguing person in the room without trying, it short-circuits everything the alpha understands about social control. How can someone who's actively avoiding attention attract more of it? It boils down to contrast. The alpha screams, "Look at me," and people eventually tune it out like background noise. The Sigma, on the other hand, says nothing, and people lean in closer. That mysterious calm, that emotional detachment, it creates a gravitational pull. People are drawn to what they can't fully figure out. And Sigmas are masters of not giving too much away. To the alpha, it's not just frustrating, it's threatening, because it reveals that attention can be earned without force. Influence can come from presence, not performance, and power can exist in silence. The Sigma's quiet charisma dismantles the alpha's loud dominance, one calm moment at a time. And that magnetic force, rooted in not wanting the spotlight, makes the Sigma exactly the kind of man who gets it, without ever asking. Number 12, alpha males. Flex, Sigma males strategize. Alpha males love to flex, their status, their possessions, their connections, even their routines. To them, power is something you display. It has to be visible, it has to be loud. The car, the watch, the title, the way they walk into a room like they own it, all of it is part of a carefully crafted image that screams, "I'm winning." And on the surface it works. People notice, heads turn. But while the alpha is showing off his current position, the Sigma is in the background doing something far more dangerous. He's strategizing. Sigmas don't waste time proving what they have. They're too busy planning for what's next. While the alpha is flexing a promotion, the Sigma is quietly laying the groundwork for total independence. While the alpha is bragging about followers and social proof, the Sigma is mastering a skill or designing an escape plan no one saw coming. That kind of forward thinking, it can't be flaunted, but it's lethal. And alphas feel that threat even if they can't explain it. What drives them mad is the calm. Sigmas move slowly, think deeply, speak rarely, but every move is calculated. They don't react emotionally, they observe. They don't get distracted by applause, they focus on leverage. And that silent precision makes the alpha's showmanship look hollow, because while the alpha is busy looking powerful now, the Sigma is building something that will be powerful later. Long-term plays over short-term ego. And here's the kicker, Sigmas aren't even competing with alphas. They don't care about one-upping anyone. They're not racing, they're plotting. So by the time the alpha realizes he's being outmaneuvered, the Sigma is already sitting in a position he didn't advertise, but one that outclasses everything the alpha worked to show off. That's psychological warfare. And the worst part? The Sigma still won't gloat. He'll disappear, reinvest, and plan the next move quietly. That's what eats the alpha alive. The realization that all the flexing in the world can't compete with a man who moves in silence, thinks in depth, and always plays the long game. Because in the end, real power doesn't perform. It prepares. And that's why Sigmas stay 2 steps ahead, even when they're invisible. Alpha males may dominate the spotlight, but Sigma males dominate the room, without saying a word, without playing the game, and without needing anyone's permission to exist on their own terms. That's what drives alphas crazy. Not because Sigmas challenge their power directly, but because they render that power irrelevant. They don't bow to hierarchy, they don't react to manipulation. They don't chase recognition, play politics, or perform masculinity. They just are. Steady, self-possessed, and completely detached from the validation treadmill alphas are addicted to. Every time a sigma enters a room, it exposes an uncomfortable truth. Power isn't about volume. It isn't about control, followers, or flexing status. It's about presence. And sigmas carry the kind of presence that strips the ego from the alpha's show, calmly, silently, without even trying. That's what eats away at the alpha male's confidence. Not defeat, irrelevance. Because how do you win against someone who's not playing? How do you dominate someone who can't be controlled? How do you flex on a man who sees through the whole act and refuses to clap? The truth is, alpha males are addicted to performance. But sigma males are the quiet endgame, the living proof that real strength needs no audience. And that silent, unshakable energy, that's the one power no alpha can imitate, fake, or conquer. If this hit differently, if it pulled back the curtain on what real power looks like, then you already know this is just the beginning. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel, because we're not here for surface-level talk or recycled advice. We dive into the raw, the rare, and the brutally honest, like this video if it shook something loose. Comment if you've seen these dynamics play out in real life. Share it with someone who needs to understand why the loudest guy in the room isn't always the most powerful. And remember, in a world obsessed with noise, we value silence that speaks volumes. Stick around. This channel was built for minds like yours.